Coming to you live from the Poison Point studio, it's Neo!
Good evening, my esteemed watchers, and welcome to another... Oh, come on. You're not gonna cockblock me like that, are you? Welcome to another episode of Poison Points. I'm your host, Irisu Neo, and tonight I welcome you to the Poison Points Suite. It's been a bit of a weird week and a bit of a weird day, as I typically do. I've in fact been quite on edge for some reason, and it was with that I realized that tonight's interview is the first interview that I'm going to be having since I changed my position at my job. So I've always felt like I was a little bit off today, like I wasn't quite prepared, but here we are, prepared and on time, ready and willing to introduce a wonderful spaceman. But before we make it to him, I just gotta let you all know that it is high time for you to join the Discord. We had a little bit of an issue earlier today in terms of Discord kind of screwing itself over, but if it is of any interest to you, I typically hold events weekly. Every Saturday will normally be a movie night of some choosing, and Wednesdays typically will be a night where we relax and hang out together. And of course, I keep everything updated, schedule-wise, alongside Lulu, but we don't have to talk about her. Secondly, I do have a socials channel. I say socials channel, but you can find all of my socials there in my card, or at Irisu on YouTube and on TikTok. I am going to be taking a little bit of a break this week after this interview, all the way up until Thursday, in order to get caught back up on certain things that I want to try and do. But otherwise, everything is mostly the same. All right, well, except for that gave me a double announcement, so I apologize. Thank you for joining us here tonight, Silver, Soulstone, Vector, of course, and Buffy. I know that Buffy wouldn't want to miss this for the world, so I thank you all for being here this evening. And you were, well, my hoodie's a little bit different this time around, but I'm so used to having my dress on, but I thought I'd change it up for a little bit and do some hoodie work today. But you are the first at the table, so we got to go with the OG. Another win, another victory for the OG. Fortnite something. That's the word, right? I'm awaiting the moment that we unlock our little dancing friend there as well. The Redeem has seen a little bit of dust, and I've not been as present as I normally would. But I'm hoping to change that a little bit with the coming weeks, and the change of the new year. Seasonal depression do be seasonal, and it typically hits me the hardest at the beginning. Regardless, I hope you are all well. And you know what? I forgot to get music. Vector, I know you're listening to me, and I told you that I would forget at least one thing today, and it was the music, believe it or not. So, what do I do? What is my normal lo-fi 10 hours? Or as Bonnie would call it, porn music for 10 hours. But I assure you, it is anything but that. I don't play that music on my stream. It's just a good vibe. It looks good, it sounds good. Makes me sound a little professional, hip, and with the times. Just saying. All right. Well, actually, you know, funnily enough, I don't have a lot of other announcements today. So, yeah, that's all I have. Let's introduce our guest today.
Counsel for the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Vector Spaceman, attorney at law.
Ah, shit!
Vector! Does any of this food have raccoon meat in it? I'm not supposed to eat raccoon meat.
Nobody is supposed to eat raccoon meat. Why would that ever be a concern? T-pose on him? Yeah, we'll put the T-pose on him. Bam! Get T-posed. You're right. And her head appears to be leaking some sort of Twitch terms of service abiding mystery fluid.
I'm pretty sure we're allowed to say blood.
Mystery fluid. Oh, we're back. We're not dead. We're not dead. I thought that was gonna... Ow! I thought that was gonna do us in for good. Excuse me. We did this one already!
I say, Liz.
Jesus Christ, Buffy, what the fuck are you doing in there, you little asshole?
Found stuff.
Alright, later, weirdo.
It's an old Spaceman family recipe made with iconic space flavoring.
Is it urine?
No,
Is it recycled urine?
it's not urine. Yeah, that's the best way to animate stuff. It's just
Listen, Monster Mash, I don't know what corpse you dug up to get your medical license, but I'm not just going to stand here and let you hack my friend up with a chainsaw. Let me do it.
All ashore, voyageurs. We finally reached the new world. A vast, unexplored continent, fresh for the taking. From sea to sea, all in the name of England.
Huzzah!
And France.
Huzzah!
I'll tap for 2.
Introducing our guest for this evening. It's the... Oh, why am I out here? It's the one and only Vector Spaceman. Wait a minute. Hold on. I think you're muted. Unless I'm deaf.
I am. I was muted. You're 100% right.
Oh,
Look
yes.
at this, guys. We're here on the show. Everything's going swell. No, this is just like what you said. You had a problem with the lights coming on, and the music wasn't there at the start. So we've already got 2 things, now 3 things out of the way. There's no way that anything else could possibly go wrong for the rest of the evening. And isn't that comforting in a way? I think so. I think so.
Yeah, just a little bit. The unfortunate thing is I have no wood in here to knock, so I guess whatever happens, happens. So I
Oh,
hope
and there
you're
is
ready.
absolutely no wood in space because it's a fire hazard. So I guess we're fresh out of luck. And wood.
Yeah, no wood. How do you stay warm all of the time then?
Oh, just artificial heating, good duct work, as it were.
I just wanted to hit you with like an out of the loop kind of obvious question to see if I could slip you up just a little bit there.
It's important to have quality HVACs when you're living on a space station. That's for sure.
Oh yes, but in here today the AC is on because it is always quite hot in this little brain world we live in today.
And we're just so cool and calm and collected.
I mean, when you have bodies like we do, it tends to get quite hot in the areas we enter, so...
True. Plus, there's not a whole lot of, how you say, ventilation under this helmet. Gets a little sticky sometimes. It's a bit of a downer.
I have had a question about your helmet for the longest of times, but I think I need to save that for a little bit later. So, there's our clickbait. There's
mystery questions, you guys.
Our clickbait for later. Make sure to tune in and hear what Vector has to say. With that being said, Vector, thank you for joining me here this evening and being on the show after having me pester you for so long to be interviewed.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm just, sad that we couldn't get it done during your big Space VTuber month, where you were bringing everybody on. Unfortunately, we were a little busy doing one of our latest animated projects, so we just couldn't set any time aside, but we made up for it. We're here now. Plus, we got extra, the footage to show off, so that's great. Really worked well for that trailer.
Oh, yeah. You were absolutely, day in, day out, also helping out other people with some of their side projects. I know you voiced and cameoed in several of Space Buffoon's streams, so... Very cool.
That's
Very
right.
Cool.
Doing the sort of mission briefings for Buffy's little lore streams. And I shouldn't even say little because they're really well put together and really in depth and really fun in the way that they incorporate the audience. The chat gets to make decisions, and there's all sorts of different endings that can happen. It's very, very cool, and I hope we get to do more in the future. And of course, I'd be up for reprising my role as General Spaceman, or whatever Buffy wants to call it.
No, we have a professional voice actor on set with us today, so...
Ooh, who could that be?
Well, I'm currently interviewing with him. You've got that voice, that pizzazz and confidence that, I don't know, if I was to talk to you normally and you never told me what your profession was ever, I would assume that you were a professional voice actor.
Aw, me, little old me. Oh dear, where did my other hand go? That's messed that up somehow.
The party trick was... It got a little out of hand.
There it is. Yaw, look at me being all embarrassed. Yaw.
And just to say, Buffy streams, they are little lore streams because Buffy is so small, so tiny.
I guess that's on a technicality. You've got it.
Mm-hmm. Big world for or small clown, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I always like to start off these interviews with a bit of a doozy from our last week's guest, who was, in fact, Spiral. And Spiral wanted to know, without knowing it was you who was going to be asked this question, what, in your opinion, is something that indie game developers will always be better at than AAA corporations?
All right. Something that indie game studios will always be better at than big ol' corpos, as it were. Well, I suppose you'd probably have to give it to them for agility in terms of not just product turnaround, but in terms of making changes, adapting, adjusting. And I don't just mean things like bugs, but just adapting to changing trends and player expectations and what have you. in the way that when you're working on a big game, let's say, something where you've got hundreds, perhaps even thousands of people all working together at the same time, generally you're going to have pretty concrete design documents that you're not going to, stray away from for any old reason. Because, of course, you've got financing concerns. Maybe you've got investor concerns. You've got deadlines. You've also got all these people that you got to, be paying. They expect a paycheck at the end of the week. It's a lot easier, I think, for indie devs with less overhead and oversight to make radical changes that might benefit their product. And not just product in a commercial sense, but product in the sense of output.
Because it's incredibly expensive, like you said, in terms of like, if something had to change.
Yeah, too expensive even.
Yeah, if something had to change, then you have to completely halt what you've had to do. And that takes time, energy, a lot of money.
And more money, exactly.
Whereas
it's kind of like that Sonic the Hedgehog meme.
Oh, yeah.
I want, shorter games with worse graphics made by people who work less and get paid more. And I'm not kidding.
Yep. Words to live by. Unfortunately,
Words to live by.
Very controversial as, unfortunately, the internet likes to do that to things. And silly little memes have now become a bit of a hassle to say.
Hedgehog wisdom, though. I don't know how you could, misinterpret that sort of statement.
Yeah,
now,
Sonic,
mind you, at the same time, there's things that big studios can do that the little guys can't. You got to give them credit where it's due. Something like this is a game that I'm still meaning to get around to, and hopefully I'll get to finally settle down with it around the holidays when I got a little time off. Is this Baldur's Gate 3 that came out within the last few months. Something with that level of depth and complexity is either only, and especially with the amount of voice work that goes into it, is something that's only possible when you've got intense capital to throw behind it, or, it's some sort of lunatic's passion project that he's working on, under the radar for 10 years and then releases out of nowhere. But then, of course, you're looking at more than likely, graphics that are 5 to 10 years out of date, that sort of thing. Which is not always the worst, but like I say, there's give and take. Little studios, big studios. I think what the little guys, like I said, the flexibility, the adaptability, here's another thing that's got me thinking. You generally won't see a big studio make what we'd consider an indie game, will you? And it's not like they can't afford it.
Yeah.
It's not like they couldn't be, dedicating a whole, arm of their regular resources to just making fun little, shorter, simple graphic, just really tight gameplay games. But you don't see that as much. It seems to be that once you hit a point where you've got a certain amount of capital behind your project, you're almost incentivized to try to be, the biggest thing possible. You start competing with the other big players in the scene.
Yeah, now that you mention it, because I'd never thought of it like that before, if they were going to do something like that, they would obviously have the resources, but they dedicate their time to being the competitor against other AAA studios. So instead of a simple game, you get everything that's kind of a hallmark of what a AAA game would have, which could feel samey in regards to an indie's individuality, its completely unique design and everything that revolves around it. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'm no actuarial when it comes to game design and what have you. I've only ever really dabbled in it. But I imagine that the returns on even just attempting to make some big blockbuster game title are worth the risk that comes with, having to shore up that level of money to even get your foot in the door. You gotta get artists, you gotta get developers, you gotta get licenses for your engine if you're not, building something in-house, which is its own problems to begin with.
Yeah.
And then you got music licensing, and then you've got
voice acting and
voice acting, you've got advertising, you got all that, when really, all that people like me, little spacemen, want is just some goofy little 8-hour pixel graphic, fun little novel gameplay thing that I can pick up on Steam, and maybe it's got 10 achievements that I can hunt, and I can 100% it and feel good about myself. And isn't that really what gaming's about?
Oh yeah. I do miss those old days. The Xbox achievement hunting from Halo Reach was one of the ones I did first, 100%ing it, because I was in love with the concept of I want to be the one who is like the hallmark of my friend group having all of these achievements.
And then your friends come over and they're like, ooh, he's got so many Chivos. Because, chat, ladies love Chivos.
It's true. It's true.
It's true.
I start to look at people differently. If you have 100% completion, if you have those secret achievements,
the unlisted ones?
I'm salivating.
Forget about it. Mm-hmm.
What, you don't like games with 500 achievements? Well, they're novel. They're all right. I might not ever finish it.
That's the thing, right? Like, I feel like I want to finish games. I don't want games to be a chore. You know how you always hear about people feeling like MMO players, feeling like, oh, it's like a second job. Like I spent so much time on it.
Oh yeah.
That sort of thing. I don't want, I want to feel like I can finish a game and be done with it and put it behind me. And then move on to something else. And maybe go back to it at some point, because presumably it's still fun. But, I like there to be attainable goals when it comes to completing games, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Drakengard. Sorry, that's a little bit of a personal problem I have with a certain video game by a certain well-known director.
Everybody's got one. Or some. Some people have 2 or 3. Some people have 10. Some people have many.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I've sort of found? I'll tell you what I've found is a good way to kick game addictions. For me, what I've found is if I get really, fixated on a game to the point where I've sunk hundreds of hours into it, that sort of thing, I've got, what would you call it? Like system mastery of its mechanics dialed out, completely dialed in. Eventually I'll hit a point where I'm like, all right, what would I do to make this game better? And then I'll start looking into developing mods for the game. Mm-hmm. And then once I'm developing mods for the game, then I become much, much less interested in the game as a source of fun. Because developing mods can be time-consuming and challenging and frustrating, but at the same time still rewarding. So for games that I've been stuck on in the past, like I've got something like 600 hours in Civilization 6. So I started making my own mods, and now and I'll probably sink another 100 hours on paper just loading it up and testing the mods out and stuff like that. And after a while, it's like, ugh, I don't want to look at this thing. I don't want to see this loading screen at all one more time. You got to sort of condition yourself out of it.
Oh yeah.
I found that works for me, at least.
My method, especially if it's a story-based game, Baldur's Gate 3, for example, I will spoil the ending of video games so that I could just okay, I know what's happening. I will get there someday, but I do need to put this down, lest it take the rest of my mortal life away.
You know what? I used to do that for films sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd get really into the behind-the-scenes production of big films, like the Star Wars series was big for me. So I'd hear little rumors and stuff from the set and things about major plot points and things like that. And I didn't mind that so much because I'd still always be interested in seeing how they pull it off on screen. So I'd still always be excited to go to the theater and see how they put it into live action, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering that question. I'm sure Spiral will appreciate it.
That was
Without
one
the-
question, you
Yeah,
guys, and I'm
it was.
sure we could still say more about it.
Oh yeah, but that's my job as the interviewer is to railroad you and interrogate you tonight.
Reel it in. Yep. Like
So-
a rodeo.
I have always wanted to know, because I don't know a lot about you. I know a lot around you. I know the people that you hang out with, a lot of your friends, and I only
Tend
hear
to
great
orbit
things.
in the same spheres, as it were.
At that hand.
Head pats. Look at that. Thank you so much, Pinch.
Why are you up there? I want those head pats.
See, you got to be down here, getting head pats like this guy.
There we go. Boom. I've always wanted to know, what was the turning point for you to become a content creator? Not just a VTuber, but starting your journey towards creating content.
You know what? I do not know.
Really?
I don't think that I can recall, because it's been 2 years now, and there was a time where I think I would never think of doing this sort of thing. I think the anonymity definitely helps.
Mhm.
I'm not somebody who would want to be doing this like as a live streamer, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Just because I value sort of having a separation between online personas and your real life persona, or which I guess we just call you or whatever. There's not really a good word for it. Your IRL character, as it were.
The flesh puppet that we pilot.
Yeah, exactly.
But you...
Yeah, I like there being a clear demarcation between that. So Spaceman is one of, many personas, I guess, that I've had over the years. This is the latest. He's expressing himself in a novel fashion. But I had wanted to learn how to use the software and technology behind virtual streaming. And that must be what really got me into it, was wanting to learn, okay, how can we use, Live 2D Studio? How can we use the Cubism software to make our own model, that sort of thing? And so we slowly figured out how to do things, put it all together in like 1 or 2 months, and just sort of challenged myself to see where I could take it. And it's been a good time. I mean, look where it's gotten us. We're here on the show. Isn't this great, you guys? Isn't this great? Here on the Poison Points show? I mean, really?
Oh, you flatter me too much. I mean, I'd bring people in because I'm very intrigued, and usually it's me like prodding and poking to get as much knowledge as I can out of people like you, because I appreciate the creative process that I have seen so far, what I've seen you debut in and be a part of as a content creator. Obviously, without doxing your previous self and where you've come from, if that's not something that you're comfortable with, where was the beginning of the journey for you? Was it something with like YouTube or something else in your life that you wanted to try out?
So without any sort of public-facing communication, I used to do stuff on Newgrounds. So back in the Flash days, which of course leads into the design and implementation of the Spaceman model. This whole getup that we got here being completely designed in Adobe Flash, because I love it as an illustrating software, and it's something that I've been using for years and years and years. So it just felt natural, and it seemed like an underserved, I guess, niche within a niche that already is virtual streaming, to do like a mid-2000s Flash-based Spaceman. In fact, if you look real close, you can even see the little Flash logo on my jacket there as a little.
Oh yeah.
How would you say?
Homage.
Homage. Little paying our respect, paying our dues to our origins.
I actually, hearing that is filling me with so much inspiration. I love that you took something that you used to love doing, and it's still a thing, of course, but Flash is a thing of the past, unfortunately.
And people think it's all into that Flash is dead, but this isn't true. No. Let me tell you. No, Flash still gets content made for it, especially sites like Newgrounds tend to have built-in Flash emulators nowadays. Because yes, most web browsers won't support SWF files anymore, but they can support emulators that'll play the old SWF files. So we've still got, you know, like the Internet Database has got a whole lot of old games and animations that you can still see, and of course there's Newgrounds and sites like it, and they still actually run contests every year for new animations and new games, all created within Flash. So if anybody, you know, is ever hankering for some retro content, definitely go check it out.
Okay. And do you still do that on the side, or is that a pastime
Not really.
It's behind you at this point?
Well, it's behind me, but it's still with me. I mean, we're doing animations these days with assisted animation tools like Live 2D that are, you know, more complex than anything I ever put together back in the day.
Yeah, and you use Live 2D, you know, like with the Cubism, correct? The like the recording software in there to make your videos, or do you work with an editing software that just you can bounce things around as part of keyframing and the whole 9 yards?
So we actually do something that is more akin to live action green screen recording. So when we film for the specials and the skits and what have you, I'll have a script written out that I'll pass around to all of our actors, and they'll get familiar with their roles, and we'll bring them on one at a time usually to record their parts. And it requires a lot of pre-planning in terms of having shots set up compositionally, either on paper or in my head, preferably on paper, so that I can make references and what have you. But we got to know where each character is going to be, where they're going to be looking, at which point in the script. When this line is read, you're going to move this way, so we need to, you know, have you shake your head a little bit to make it simulate like you're walking, because we'll make it look more natural in the editing program after the fact. But no, effectively what we do is we have people share their screen on a color key, like a green screen or a blue screen, depending on their model. And then we just basically film their raw motion capture footage and translate that into an editing software like Vegas or Premiere or something like that, and composite it all together and make it look like everybody's in the moment together. So it takes a lot of precise timing to make it look like everyone's communicating with one another, since very rarely do we ever have anyone recording at the same time.
Yeah, I can only imagine with the amount of people that you have and just the different time zones alone, not even within or just within the US. I can imagine it's a little bit difficult to to work that all together.
We've gotten pretty good at coordinating, at scheduling and what have you. But from start to finish, putting together one of those like half-hour feature-length holiday specials or something like that usually takes about 2 months of solid work, from the scheduling, the script writing, to the recording, to the editing, to the final little bit of advertising, because we usually don't have a whole lot of time to remind people that we're actually putting on a big show. That tends to be where we fall short most of the time. And then, you know, get everybody together, premiere it on twitch.tv/Vector_Spaceman. Make sure you're following, you guys, if you want to check out some of our cool animations. And yeah, it's a labor of love, definitely, because we really don't get a whole lot of recognition for it. It's really just about having fun and writing good jokes and getting to work with some really talented actors.
What made you want to do it? Like, because I know that you stream content on the side, you play games as you see fit, but what made you want to push towards a story base, like a silly little skit that you can put, like you said, 2 months of effort into? Where is that, like the beginnings of that for you?
So I did not see that represented. Like, I found it very rare to see even short form animated narrative content, like script based, like gags and situational humor and stuff like that. So I wanted to see, well, can we turn this into, a format that is one, like achievable. Here's the thing: when we put together the first Spaceman special, it was an intro skit plus a mid-stream skit plus the feature-length skit, which was close to a half hour just on its own, and we had no precedent for it.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that we were able to get as many people on board as we did, and it turned out, to be as fun as it was, and we got to work with some great people, throw some great jokes in there. It was a complete. I don't want to say fluke because we did work hard on it, but it was, just miraculous almost that we could pull it off. And from there, we were able to attract, some more great actors for the second one and for the third one, and we've got some more skits coming out this holiday season that's going to be featuring some new people. So it's kind of just like cascading upward in terms of, can we make it bigger and better than the last one? That's what I'm always pushing toward, and that's why it's always taken me longer and longer to make these, because we've gone from a skit that's like 20 minutes to 25 minutes to like a half an hour to are we almost pushing 40 minutes? And eventually someday are we going to get to do like a feature length, like hour and a half long Spaceman special or something like that? That would be like the wildest, part of the wildest ambitions that I could foresee us doing. But it would take us a while to get there. We'd have to do some major restructuring of models and characters and what have you. But I think if there's one way that I would love to sort of retool the channel and the concept and the station is like, can we make a series, like a real series that's replicable, that we can make quick enough to put out like a short skit like every 2 weeks or a month or something like that, like consistency. Right now, we can do maybe 3, maybe 4 specials a year. I've been trying to steer us more towards doing fewer specials, more skits, and more skits consistently. That's what we're working on right now. And I lost a little track of the original question. It was what sort of inspired us to do this. It was because nobody else was. And I thought it's something that was a good idea that nobody else was doing. I think it's worked out pretty well. I mean, there's still ways we can improve it, and I hope we get to realize those improvements. But that was the crux of it, was that nobody else was really tapping into live 2D as assisted animation, and that's what I wanted to experiment with and try to propel. And here we are.
Yeah, that is like part of your namesake, I would say. That is actually how Buffy introduced me to you, was through the first special. Yeah, because I had this idea and this plan to also do, not necessarily that I wanted it to be animated, but I wanted to do lore specific stuff, because I find a lot of value in character lore being presented through VTubing. And it's fun to write stories and bring them to life. And Buffy pointed me towards you, and I was like, wow, I'm floored. This is awesome. How could I do this but in my own right? And
Gotcha.
So you might have been a slight inspiration for me to push forward and do this stuff. But with that being said, I 100% understand the effort and process that goes into making even 1 minute's worth of content. Like every minute, as you count it by, it gets harder and harder and harder to hit deadlines and make things happen. But it would be really cool. I hope that you can find a system that you could make work to where you can do more than just the 4 per year.
I hope so too. A lot of it comes down to the fact that I do all the editing myself, all the filming myself, all the background sets and scenery and little, the like assets that we have on screen, that all gets done by me as well. So it's very much a one-man band operation. If we could, find ways to sort of unload that onto some other people, then that could probably help as well. How would you delegate it? That's a good question. I could probably teach somebody how to replicate the background style that we use, which is all that very like sketchy, like traced over. Part of it is trying to achieve a consistent style. Like, we don't just use stock photos that we pull from the internet. We edit stuff so that it all sort of fits into the scene, so everything looks coherent. That's a big part of it. So they'd have to, be brought on to sort of understand the style that we're going for, which isn't the hardest thing to do. But in terms of the filming itself, and this is where I sort of briefly touched on, changes that I'd like to make to the format in the last little rambly answer I was given. But and it sort of ties into what you were just saying about, using live 2D to present like lore streams and like streaming as a background, as a cogent experience. Right now, all of our Spaceman specials that we do are very much insular. They're very self-referencing. It's very hard to onboard somebody to them because they're so full of in-jokes and past references, and you got to be familiar with, who all these virtual streamers are, and that's fine for what it is right now. Because, people like watching the specials and they get to see their favorite streamer, and it's like, oh, cool, it's so-and-so. And hello, Raiders, how are you guys doing tonight? Welcome to the program.
Yeah, hello, Lily.
This is Poison Points. I'm your host, Vector Spaceman, and this is Irisu, and we're having a lovely time.
Thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth.
But I have thought about how could we make the Spaceman specials...
Specials.
How could we make them more accessible? How could we make them more like something that you could show somebody without having to, lead them through and this is, that's Nova Swarm, they're made of these three, and that's Buffy, and Buffy looks like that because Buffy doesn't have a proper live 2D model, but it's fine. They use the PNG every now and then. It's very funny. And Dragon doesn't have legs, but you got to kind of let that slide because his model wasn't made with legs for some reason, and et cetera, et cetera. Could we do something that's more like a real animated series? And I have thought about that. And what I keep coming back to is the only way that we can really do that is if I have more control over the models. Right now we work with a lot of people who are self-produced streamers, which is great because it actually allows us to do very creative things in the skits, because everybody can make little tweaks to their models, new outfits, new features, that sort of thing. Like in the latest special that we did where we had Galaxy Jamwitch Jammy. We had her do a whole lot of stuff with her model, turning it into like this eldritch, tentacled space Jamwitch horror. And that's something that we never could have done if her model was made by, some artist that she had just commissioned. But we would either have to have, and by we I mean me, I would either have to have more control over people's models to the extent that I could basically do everybody's motion capture myself, so that we're not, doing all the scheduling. That would be the biggest turnaround, is if we had access to everybody's model so that we could get all the animation done, and then everybody else's roles just basically become voice acting, just dubbing over their lines. That would be a huge time saver. But I'm never going to feel comfortable asking people for access to their models like that.
Because it's a deeply personal thing for people to have them in the first place, especially if they made it.
Well, as somebody who made his own model, yeah, that's what I feel. And so that's what keeps me from reaching out to that degree, to sort of even floating that idea by people. So the other solution that I've come up with is, all right, what if we had a core cast of characters that we had Spaceman style models made for? So now we've got access to everybody's models, and they're all in a It's not just like a like how do you even it's it's not like a. Do you ever see the program Drawn Together?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, where everybody's sort of like in different styles. That's kind of like what we have right now. It's like we've got some people in anime styles, we've got some people in cartoon styles, we got some people who are in 3D. But no, if we had everybody, you know, in a coherent style, if I was to make up models for our core cast, then we could sort of solve some of those problems, I think. And then it becomes, you know, closer to like a standard animated series almost. It's something that I think about. It's something that I think about often. It's kind of like the apex of what we could do with the Vector Spaceman show as an idea, I think. Will we get there someday? I don't know. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. The VS CU, the Vector Spaceman Cinematic Universe.
Yes, exactly.
It would be really
Coming
cool to see
soon
that.
to a small screen near you.
Twitch.tv/Vector_Spaceman. Buffy did suggest, because they were also running into the issue of or not having access to like easy models to use, but they learned Vroid in order to make a lot of what they've done a reality. As I'm sure when you hop into their lore streams, you see them with specifically their Vroid model out, and then when it's their other streams, it's the PNG or a little thing that they've made, a little doodle. So that could be an opportunity. But of course, Vroid is a learning curve on its own. So that could also be a time consumer until you've learned how to do it, if that's something that you would wish to do.
Kind of one of my resolutions, one of my ambitions for this year is to finally get around to the Vector Spaceman 3.0 model. Try to do a 3D model of my own, in very much in the Spaceman style. But again,
I would love
will
to
we
see
get it done? We'll see. We'll see.
Hey, I mean, we already have one person who figured out how to make helmets work very well, which was Rig. So you've already got the resources, the people.
Nice.
Yeah, it's definitely an opportunity. So, with all that being said, what, like, your influence for your model was, of course, the Newgrounds style. But as far as what we see, the Spaceman himself, why did you go with, you know, a short fella? Why did you go with that rogue, Star Wars Rogue Squadron style, I should say?
So the helmet itself, sort of, you're not 100% wrong, kind of takes inspiration from like kind of like the Rebel helmets of Star Wars. The ear caps and the microphone are kind of their own thing. The little cheek guards, I'm not really sure where they've come from, but it was very much just a bunch of sketches I had done. And it was not a whole lot of iteration from the first design to where we are now. This model is a little distinct from our very first model that we did. The first model had like a whole orange jumpsuit. And you know what? I want to address this. I was not familiar with the Despicable Me character Vector before I made my first model. And I quickly found out about him afterwards because everybody was saying, hey, you know, you kind of remind me of this guy, because I had like a much higher collar in the first model, which I thought looked more like Naruto, not so much like a tracksuit sort of thing. But there were some design similarities there unintentionally that I was constantly reminded of.
Yeah, that was one of my questions, but I was gonna keep it to myself. If it was something that you were not comfortable with, because I know some people don't like being compared to something they didn't have the intention for.
Buffy in chat here saying kind of like a Tank Man. Yeah, kind of like a Tank Man. So Tank Man, the sort of mascots of Newgrounds, very much of the same sort of scale. Big head, smaller body. I just think it, you know, for cartoon purposes, it's nice to have a big, expressive face. The eyes really work, on this model, because we can do all sorts of expressions with them. We can get, sad or mad, or we can get frustrated, or we can get, quizzical. We can get the eyebrows raised, like The Rock, like, eh.
Dubbo for a Vine Boom right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've had this discussion many a time before with other people that, and you've also said this, we were talking about it with simplicity in video games. Simplistic designs can go much further than a complex design can, because you have, one, the resources and energy to easily change things as you see fit, but also that tiny little fella has like a big blooming personality behind it now, because you did those things with the eyes, with your hands, your party trick where you lost a hand for a second
With
there.
the hands, though, you guys. With the hands. Give them the guns, everybody. Hey, welcome to the show. Hey.
They always look like fried eggs when I doodle vector your eyes.
Yes, that's right. But we do love those. But yeah, when it comes to little fan arts, which we occasionally get, I'm sure it's much easier to draw vector than it is to draw some decked out, bejeweled, beglittered, anime man with his swept hair and his dark expression and his 20 belts and what have you.
You're just naming a Guilty Gear character at this point. I adore
but
the
at
eyes.
the end of the day,
Mhm.
I am if I'm an artist, I'm a cartoonist. I don't tend to call myself an artist, but if I am, then I'm a cartoonist. I'm not someone who's schooled in, fine media or anything like that. So this is, also a choice based on ability, because, I can't do, or it would be difficult for me to do, your traditional Eastern anime style VTuber or something like that. So it wasn't something that I was interested in, trying to fake, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think that it shows because, you wanted to do a medium that you didn't see was very represented. It was underrepresented in
I didn't
scene.
think that there were going to be that many space virtual streamers to begin with, but I was quickly proven wrong in that regard. But yeah, it definitely, when it comes to the Western internet era design, I didn't see anybody doing this sort of thing. And I should mention there are some others, but they are few and far between. So it's a nice, close-knit group of folks, and I like it like that. Lets me keep track of people. It's nice.
Yeah, but at the same time, it would be cool to see more people push into that style too. I want to see more cartoony VTubers at the end of the day. For me personally,
there's a streamer that I've become more aware of recently, fellow Canadian and fellow sort of cartoon streamer, and that is Shark-Sided.
Okay.
And she actually appeared in one of the background shots of our latest special. And more, just simple, thick line art, cartoony style, live 2D streamers. They're great. They're out there. Go look for them, you guys.
Space VTubers are the biggest and most loving VTubing subsection. Yeah, I can agree with that.
There's some truth in that, yeah.
I see so many clowns, I see so many Space VTubers, and I see a decent amount of frogs. And they're all very tight knit, and not in a bad way. They're like that comfortable, open knit group of fellows that when you get to know them, they adopt you in, and you don't have a choice anymore. You've been taken under their wing.
Part of the ship, part of the crew.
Oh yeah. If you could offer advice through what you've experienced, what should creators avoid doing?
What should creators avoid doing? I guess steer clear of anything that'll get you copyright struck. I mean, that seems that's something that affected me early on when I was streaming. So I've mentioned this a few times. I'll mention it again. Hopefully nobody notices.
Okay.
So a lot of the musical stings that we use on the program are not owned by us. They are actually sourced from Soviet-era jazz groups from countries that don't exist anymore, which initially I thought would, help us sort of get around copyright and what have you. But every now and then we find out, all right, somebody still owns the license to this, and occasionally we get YouTube flagged. So occasionally I have to switch around which ones we use because they start cracking down on it, that sort of thing. But I would say, yeah, avoid that. It's just a hassle. Just be a good person. Is that so hard? Be good, you guys.
Hey,
If you're
for some
thinking
people,
if you're thinking about getting into streaming, first of all, like anybody will tell you, have proper expectations about where you're going to be and what you're going to do and what success looks like for you. Don't compare yourself to others. What do they say? It's comparison is the thief of joy, I believe is the quote, though I'm not sure to whom it's attributed.
Vector Spaceman, 2023.
Vector Spaceman said it. That's right.
If I remember correctly. Okay. And what do you think helps push a content creator forward?
Bigger content creators.
Really?
Well, I say that mockingly, but it's undeniable that the biggest push I ever get for the specials and for the program comes from retweets and reposts and shoutouts from the bigger creators that we work with. So I'd give a big shout out to Pomato Master, for example, fellow Canadian, fellow space sci-fi streamer, who has appeared in, I think, more of our skits and specials than anybody else has, but has always been great about promoting the specials and the skits and what have you to her whole audience. And she is much, 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 much bigger than we are. More of your classic anime style model and what have you. So maybe that helps. She says that helps. Sort of. So that's something that can help you, is sort of palling around with bigger content creators. But could you repeat the initial question so I can give you a more Spaceman specific answer?
What do you think helps push a creator forward?
What helps push a creator forward? Okay.
I made this
Okay.
intentionally vague. It doesn't have to necessarily be like a motivator, but
No. But I think you gotta have a vision or a goal that you want to see achieved through your content. Like, I couldn't keep streaming if all I was doing was, just games. Just, loading up OBS one day and playing single player games. I can't do it without co-hosts. I love having other people on the program. Those are the most fun streams that we do. And I couldn't do it without big projects like the specials. And I'm always pushing myself to be like, all right, what's the next way that we could improve this? What's the next big theme we could do? What's the next big effect we could try to work into it? How can we top our last one? And that's, well, like I said earlier, that can lead to issues of getting burnt out and having no time to actually complete the project. But you gotta have goals. You gotta have real goals that you can achieve.
Yeah, that is fair and valid, because I was feeling exactly the same way with, I felt like I didn't have a niche when it came to my own content. I could play video games all day, but everyone can play video games all day as part of being a streamer.
You guys, they're the worst.
It's weird when you do it, quote unquote, professionally as a streamer, because now you're like, well, I can't play this anymore because I have to play it on stream. So you
I gotta save it for the show. Yeah.
And then you can easily just feel like every experience you have is a burden because now you're tethered to chat. So this show exists for that very reason of I wanted to do something new, and what I felt like was mostly unique, at least in the way that I wanted to do it.
It'll
Talk
always
shows.
be unique to the way that you want to do it, right?
Oh yeah.
Everybody, that's one thing that's great about streaming. Everybody brings their own little twist. Or I shouldn't say that. Everybody should bring their own little twist, their own little bit of personality to what they do. Because like you said, if you're just playing games, anybody can play games. Gotta have something that sets you apart, even if it's the most marginal thing. You gotta be able to inject yourself into your content, I think, is a thing. Because if you don't have time to invest in your own content, why would anybody else?
Oh yeah. 100%. Oh my god. It's hard because when I was first seeking advice for what I should do, the only thing I was told was to find my niche, but no one ever explains what that means. Like, no one ever tells you, like, what does it mean to find your niche? And the best answer is, well, exactly that. Find a way to inject a bit of yourself into your content. Because you are an individual, and thus you will never be like somebody else. And you always have something to bring to the table.
You've always got something, you guys.
Even if you're as short as the both of us. I know you're a little shorter, but...
just marginally. Just marginally.
Just a little bit. Don't worry, I put a box on that chair for you, so...
And it's so helpful. Thank you so much. I got my little booster seat. You guys can't see it, but trust that it's doing its job.
I have a nice little comfortable pillow there for you.
A comfortable little pillow.
If you weren't a space VTuber, or I guess in this case, just a VTuber in general, what would you be doing instead?
Sorry, if I was not a space VTuber or a what VTuber in general?
If you were just not a VTuber in general, what would you be doing instead?
I see. I would probably be spending more time with friends and family, and finding some other, creative outlet, because, it's just one way of wrestling your restlessness, I guess, is streaming. I'd probably be doing more tabletop games and stuff like that. That's something that I used to be big into that I don't have as much time for these days. It's hobbies, but it's not quite, well, I'd find other ways to fill the time just with other creative endeavors, I guess, whether it be writing or game development or just sketching without an audience or that sort of thing. Streaming has sort of become, because I spend so much time with it now, it's sort of reminded me of some of the things that, I wanted to do back in the day. Like, oh, I'd love to get more into animation or illustration or stuff like that. That now I think about, what's a big project that we could do, leveraging that sort of thing. And, that's how we get things like the specials. That's how we get, things like the Vector live 2D model and what have you. He'd be singing karaoke in the basement. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Okay. And
yeah,
finally,
I'm sure there's a million things that I could be doing with my spare time if I wasn't streaming, and it would just be, to the void. It would just be without an audience.
You always need to have something to do, basically, because you're an overabundant, flowing creature of creativity.
Well, that's the thing. If you create, it's, for some people, it's a way to like get it out of your head. If you've got all these ideas and visions and what have you of things you'd like to see manifest, well, go out and do them. You got some ideas, well, write them down. You got some jokes, well, you go and tell them. You got a song in your heart, well, hey, you go and sing it. That sort of thing.
Okay. All right. I like these answers. Finally, the one that I always like to ask, my personal favorite, because it gets people thinking, or they hardly have to think at all.
I love thinking, though.
when you get home at the end of the day and you sit at your computer and you turn on the camera or you get into Discord or you're ready to stream and create, what does it mean for you to be Vector Spaceman?
What does it mean to be Vector Spaceman? So I think this is a little different from some of the other guests that I've seen on your program. Because lore is not, I would say it is almost the farthest thing from a concern on the Vector Spaceman show. Like, Vector Spaceman as a character is somebody that I very rarely interact with, because he really only exists for the specials.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm doing streams, it's Vector Spaceman is just a face mask, basically, between myself and the the wider audience out there on Twitch.tv, like you guys out there. And thanks so much for being here, by the way.
Yes,
hope you're all having a wonderful night. But I'll tell you how that sort of affected our programming in the past. So what we have basically is 3 levels of everyone that we interact with on the show. We've got the streamers themselves behind the scenes. We've got them as they appear on their own individual programs, like Ellie and Lyra and Rig of the Nova Swarm, like Buffy, like Neff and Dragon of their respective channels. And then we also have, beyond that, we have the versions, the exaggerated versions of them that appear on the Vector Spaceman specials. And that 3rd level tends to be what I spend most of my time interacting with. Mm-hmm. And that's the least real version of everybody, which creates this weird situation for me. Because I'll spend most of my time writing up jokes for them to deliver in these scripts, writing little situations for them to be in, spending, all this time in my head with versions of these characters that, that their own actors don't get to see until they read the script. And so there have been some times, and it's something that I, have to work on personally, where, I'll write, something that a character doesn't really feel, represents their vision for the character. And so we make some little adjustments. Or, we might tell some jokes that they're not, 100% on board with. So we have to sort of adjust the way that that we present it. And how to say it? Like, I never want it to seem like I don't treat the performers with respect.
Mm-hmm.
But I spend all this time with a version of their character which basically only exists to tell jokes, to be a cartoon. Very much like the way I treat Vector Spaceman, which is not the way that the actors always care about their respective characters. A lot of people have more, they have a greater investment in the lore behind their character, let's say. Whereas Spaceman, not so much. On the show, it's, just a way for me to express myself. There are rules in a certain way that, things that Vector will and won't do on the program that I sort of abide by. But for the most part, it's just an avatar, I guess, would be a good way of putting it.
Another way of putting it, too, could be a means to an end, to just be yourself, without the, as you said earlier, without the need to have your face. It's like a depersonalization with a personalization that is something that you have created.
Largely, yes. Yeah. Like, the way that, like, Spaceman talks and what have you is not dissimilar from the way that I talk, in day-to-day or amongst friends, that sort of thing. Okay. So yeah, it's very much almost, it's very near a one-to-one. Just with the added benefit of I don't have to show off my face. I don't have to let people know who's behind the screen, which is convenient.
Mm-hmm. So you get to be yourself, and that is what's important to you. I mean, aside from the reasons for your character existing to tell a joke in that third medium, that third level, you get to be you.
When I first started, there was a brief moment where there was a little bit of lore behind like the station and Vector Spaceman and what have you, but most of that now is only there for the purpose of, like you said, for the purpose of jokes or for, really deep cut continuity within the specials, that sort of thing.
We get to be ourselves, but don't have to wear pants. Yeah, that is a big boon.
Talk about a benefit, right?
Yeah, Buffy's words out of their mouth is, it is our God-given right to not have to wear pants as VTubers.
That's, hey, listen, that's what I signed up for. If they're going to take that away from me, they're going to have to pry it out of my cold, spacey hands.
Well, speaking of lore, you did provide a little bit for me, and there still is a little bit of a story happening in your specials that, well, I'm quite intrigued by. So mayhaps some of these questions for you today will revolve around that, and it's up to you to share or withhold said information.
I love sharing.
So tell me, how does the great Vector become a spaceman? Where do you come from in order to be in that little space station?
It takes a lot of training and answering classified ads. And we've never really discussed like how Vector got his job, because the scope of Harbor Station, where Vector does his work, has changed from the initial model that we had and the initial design of the station that we appeared on to where it is now. So originally it was just this little station orbiting Earth, and there was a tiny little bit of background lore that we never really alluded to, and I don't know if we ever brought it up on stream, which was the idea that the station existed as like a decommissioned former NASA site that had been converted into civilian use as like a space bomb shelter, basically, if things were to go, terribly on Earth, that sort of thing. And this was coincidentally around the time that a lot of countries were experiencing lockdowns due to coronavirus and what have you. And so the idea was, well, if nobody's here, at the station at this point, I guess nobody's going to use it. Vector Spaceman, the custodian, may as well pass the time doing some streaming or something like that, was the initial sort of idea behind it. Now the design of the station has become more of like a very cartoony gas station, sort of a way station between Earth and the farther frontiers of space, which I think is a much better design because it sort of lends the idea of, okay, we can have, guests coming and going sort of as they're passing by, that sort of thing, as they're getting fueled up. I like that idea a little better.
Yeah, it's very cute and homey whenever I see that like zoomed out space station point of view that we get to see. We
got the counter there, we got the cash register, you got all the magazines and everything in the back.
The Magic the Gathering collection. You gotta have those.
Well, you gotta pass the time somehow.
I'll pick up the bubble gum from Harbor Station. Exactly, Ellie. You get
it. We
got
everything you need. Overpriced gas. We got your gums, so you can chew and still be hungry.
It's not quite Willy Wonkified, where it does feed you and give you nutrients and resources.
Listen, this is space here, people. This is not magic we're talking about. Come on.
I'm realizing a lot of these questions, I'm about to you're the DM, and I'm about to ask you questions that you didn't have the chance to prepare beforehand.
Most of my experience with tabletop gaming has been as a DM, so maybe it'll fly. Let's see how it lands.
All right, well, I hope you're ready for this one. What rate and benefits are provided for, running a station such as yours?
I see. So, I'm pretty sure we're not unionized. It's gotta be, for Vector's position, maybe a little over minimum wage. Competitively priced.
Oh, yeah. It's space
I
minimum
think-
wage.
Space minimum wage, yeah. I think he's got quarters on the station. I don't see him commuting every day. That seems like a bit of a hassle, not just for, Spaceman himself, but just in a logistical sense. Rockets to and from all the time. Though there is the Vector Space van. That's one way to get around.
Goodness gracious, I'm being attacked by a cat. Have
They'll
you
do that.
seen?
They'll do that.
Have you been in contact? Because you mentioned very briefly in what you sent me that you are like the furthest out from Earth, but still like within that border, like that space zone that Earth inhabits and that they control.
Within Earth's technical orbit, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
So have you ever
the
like?
idea for that being that there might be more convenient way stations along the way, and Harbor Station is kind of like, the last one you might hit on your way out.
Okay. So I take it you don't really get a lot of like alien life forms that pass on through.
I mean, we've had a few individuals who could be classified as aliens appear on some of the shows. But for the most part, I think that's just a consequence of streamers in general, is that they tend to go human. I mean, we've had space sandwiches, we've had space pandas, so we get a few odd characters every now and then.
Yeah, that is fair. That is fair. It's funny because I know that you were sitting there listening to my interview with Galaxy, and like me asking all these questions, I know that she was giggling at some points because of her role as a in your special. It was so funny to think back to like exactly what part she played and what she wasn't allowed to say to me during the time.
And if any of you guys missed that, you can go check that out on the YouTube page or right here on twitch.tv/vector_spaceman. Check it out.
Yeah, saved in your highlights, correct?
Probably not, but you will be able to find a link to the YouTube page where we have all of our specials and skits and little animated diddly-doos for your viewing pleasure at your viewing leisure.
Let's hope that I actually have... Yeah, there. Now I can shout you out now. I tried to do it again earlier, but it said no.
Nice.
We did get to see some Vector Spaceman lore with an ancestor of yours that showed up in the special itself. What is the Vector Spaceman line like? Why do you represent your ancestors to the T?
There must be some strong, immutable genetic quality that just gets passed down through the Spaceman line. So that one was actually fun to put together. Vector Spaceman the first. We just took the original character model, changed some of the coloration of like the coat to make it look like more of a vest, put a fake beard on it, which is actually repurposed from the Santa Claus model that I made for last year's Christmas special, and it kind of just worked.
Okay.
But you know what's funny is that he's got a line in the script which implies that Vector Spaceman, me personally, is actually Vector Spaceman the 5th.
Yes.
And so that there'd be, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 other unseen Vector Spacemans, at least, along the line. And I'd never really planned to do anything with that, but I think it is kind of a fun idea that we could have multiple generations of Spaceman and use that as a way to introduce different models onto the program.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you mentioned it. I didn't know if you were gonna play with it. I was hoping that you would in a future.
It's something I've thought about since the special. Yeah, it could give me a reason to have like a spaceman that's properly proportioned, for example, or something like that. We could do different things with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the genetic qualities being you need to be short. But I mean, aside from that, what is underneath the mask? What untold mysteries are you hiding under that helmet?
It's just that. It's a mystery. And sometimes you need a mystery in life. Don't you think, you guys? Sometimes isn't it better just to have the mystery?
Darn, I guess the poison isn't affecting you enough to reveal that to me. But, it's all in good fun, so... And I guess that brings me to one of my final questions for Vector Spaceman.
Already?
Oh, I know,
The
it's
evening
weird.
has flown by, you guys.
At least lore-wise. I didn't have a lot prepared because I know just a little bit that the lore part of your character isn't the most important aspect to you. Are you human?
Am I human? Yes. In a technical sense, Vector Spaceman is a human being.
Okay, in a technical sense. So there's a
might
little bit
be
more?
Some short, big-headed, mutant-eyed freak, but he is still technically human.
Okay.
He looks kind of funky next to, anybody of, I guess, average stature, but technically, yes.
Okay. The day will come when you finally remove the helmet and it's just the most Giga Chad manly thing that we've ever seen. We melt at the sight of the Vector face.
Or that'll be another Vector Spaceman model, Vector Spaceman the second or third or fourth, something like that.
It would
Just
really
the aberrant spaceman. That's a total dude.
It would be cool to see that explored, even if it wasn't like all of you together at the same time. Just I don't know. I'm putting ideas out there because I've always
Into the Vectorverse, exactly.
Yeah, the Vectorverse, the second iteration. This was his specialty. This is what he did. You never know. But in your time frame that you've had set up, which seems like a really short time, but I don't know. You seem to be from an alternative, like far off year for both Vector Spaceman the first to exist during like the 1900s, the late 1900s of America's US and all that stuff. So
I was giving that some consideration when I was writing it. So Vector Spaceman the first in those flashbacks looks kind of old in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he is Vector Spaceman's great grandfather or something like that, or great grandfather, I think technically, if it's 4 generations removed, would not be impossible for Vector Spaceman the fifth, myself, to exist in the present day, like today. But I do kind of like the idea of it being, a nebulous sort of 20XX sort of future, that sort of unspoken date, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that way
I like settings that leave themselves some wiggle room like that.
Yeah, you have all that time to like, I flubbed something. It's not a worry. We don't have a set
Yeah,
date.
exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for answering all my mainline questions. I want to mentally prepare you because I have a segment that I like to refer to as hypothetical, theoretical. And
Hypotheticals. Theoreticals.
This segment came about. Oh goodness, I'm very zoomed in on you. This segment came about because I have a habit, a really bad habit, I should say, of starting off some bullshit questions with hypothetically, theoretically, because
As one does.
You can't be mad at me if I started like that. It's not a real question. It's just a what if in that case.
No, it's the perfect cop-out.
I'm legally covered by my own language. So, So Vector, this one comes specifically from me. I had this thought, and I haven't put it to my own thought yet. Hypothetically, theoretically.
It's hot off the presses. All right.
Oh, yeah. You are invited to a non-specific president's, so U.S. president's banquet, and you are the head
foreign
chef.
dignitary. Look at me.
You're the head chef of this
I'm
banquet.
the head chef.
What meal are you cooking to please the president, but not have yourself invited to other world leaders' banquets? You don't want to be too popular, but you want to be just popular enough as far as your meal goes that the president is at least satisfied with his meal.
Where is the banquet taking place? Is it in the U.S.?
Yeah, in the U.S. at the White House.
Is it like at the White House? Okay, so I'm
Mhm.
traveling to there. Okay, I see. And I'm just a hired chef, and I've got to make some cuisine, some delicacy. All right, so it has nothing to do with. I don't have to like make something specifically spacey or Canadian or anything like that. Okay,
It's your choice.
okay. Something that the president would like, and not a specific president. See, that's what's hard, because you never know with some presidents. You never know.
I made it non-specific because like I don't want you to have to
So
deal with like
it's got to be something that pleases, multiple sensibilities rather.
hmm
Something that's, generic enough. You don't want to give the president like a hamburger or something like that.
I mean, in the
for the
U.S., maybe.
Well, I imagine you'd probably want to give them like some sort of roast, some sort of very, very fine roast with a nice gravy or something like that. Maybe like rouladen. I don't know. That could be good. But it's probably going to be some meat dish like that. I'm thinking very meat and potatoes sort of thing.
Okay. So
I wouldn't
it's
want
like
to give them something like. Well, here's the thing: if I'm trying to intentionally semi-sabotage myself, then you got to go like the most generic so that it, doesn't set off anybody's sensors, or the most horrendous so nobody would ever dare try to invite this guy. But you still want to please the president, right? I mean, that's the president.
Yeah.
Come on.
I love everyone's answers is tacos, smoked brisket, chili.
Smoked brisket, yes.
I'm either
Kinda
asking
similar,
you
yeah.
to be super specific, so it's like only the US's cuisine, or I'm
Oh.
asking you to make the most mid meal that you've ever made, but it's like enough to like please the president's taste buds. But that Vector, he obviously doesn't want to fly out to a different country to serve a banquet's meal. Like that's kind of the thought process here.
Yeah, here's the better question. How can I sabotage my candidacy ahead of time so I don't even have to go to the White House?
Oh man, you have a lot of excuses. You could just say easily, I have the coronavirus.
I got the Rona. Yeah, that works every time.
Oh yeah, easy peasy.
I can't stop leaking from my face. It's gonna get all over the food. I'm coughing all the time. I'm sneezing on every utensil. It's a horror show.
Stuck in traffic in space. You can't make it. I also like Space Flan. Vector Space Flan is a pretty good like that could be
Plan.
Yeah. It don't jiggle.
It stays structurally sound and solidified, even in 0G.
That in its own right would be quite terrifying to envision.
Kind of cool though. Kind of cool.
Like I imagine the president would eat it on principle of like you prepared this banquet, you've got the meal going, so he's got to be nice. But I don't think any of the other world leaders would invite you over to.
It's either that or give him a plate full of 80 breakfast sausages, just piled high.
All in front of him. That's it.
If
Everybody
he wants
else
to share, that's fine. But it's all for him.
Yeah.
He's the president.
Treated like a king.
That's right.
Okay. Well, I think this is a great opportunity to take a really quick break, run to the restroom, grab some liquids, get a little stretch in. And while we are doing so, if any of you have any questions for Vector Spaceman, make sure you hold on to them. Don't ask them quite yet. Like, hold on to them for a second. We'll be back in just a little bit so that your question does not get lost. See you soon. All right, everybody, we are back. Okay, I just had to make sure that I didn't accidentally keep the audio playing from the video that Vector put together, funnily enough.
We're back. Some of us are still here.
Oh, yeah. I actually asked him for, like, some clips that I could turn into a collage, and instead you gave me a very specific montage. So I was
I didn't really
very
have
happy.
clips. That was the problem. I don't really have, like, good gameplay clips or stuff that you'd call clips. So I threw together, like, a little reel of a little bit of game stuff, a lot of animation stuff. I think it was okay, though.
Yeah, it turned out perfect. I loved it. And, you know, I mentioned it before when we were in the pre-stream. I love the magic reference in your latest special. As the chronic magic player of my personal friend group, it was really funny to see I tap 2.
Gotta pass the time somehow in space.
Yeah, and Magic the Gathering is one of those ones that brings everybody together to rage or be friends.
True.
Okay, I need to get my model tracking. It's being complicated. Okay, well, I'll deal with it for right now. We'll pretend I'm looking up at you. October
Big
wants to
spaceman
know.
over here.
Yeah. Oh my God, you've gotten so tall. October wanted to know. 1, what is the best burger topping or set of toppings?
I don't think I ever have a burger without relish, without like pickle relish.
Okay.
On it.
Okay.
That's like a go-to. Like, what's the point without? I like sweet, like a sweet relish sort of dealio. Put that on the top bun. Fill the rest up with like, I don't know, vegetables, lettuce, tomato, onion, that sort of thing. Barbecue sauce, maybe. Some honey mustard. I'm a big fan of honey mustard. That's another big one.
Yes. I love honey mustard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that tends to be my go-to sandwich stack, as it were.
Okay. And number 2. This is a hypothetical, theoretical question. You are a professional wrestler. As you enter the ring, what song is playing loudly to the deafening cheers of the audience?
Ooh. Maybe ironically, it's Bring the Ruckus. Or maybe it might just be the same intro music that I use for the stream. To be honest, that jazz sort of intro.
Mm-hmm. What would your wrestling name be to jump off of that question?
Ooh. Maybe okay. I think my finishing move would be the Flying V or something like that.
Okay.
V for Victory, I'd yell, and then I'd hit him with whatever the move is. Which would probably be like a big headbutt or something. They'd let me wear my helmet in the ring, right? Safety first.
Yeah, this should be fine. You got that
the costume. Like, yeah, it's fine.
They got the height advantage. You need something, so.
A wrestling outfit would actually be really funny to do on this model, I think.
Oh yes.
Do like some like some Olympic wrestling leotard or something like that, but just with the helmet.
Chest hair bulging out.
Right.
the 8 gold medals around your chest.
He's the champ.
Is it bad that the first thing I thought of for your wrestling name would be Vector, and then in quotes, Vector Spaceman?
Vector Spaceman of the Vector Spaceman show, Spaceman.
Oh, yeah.
And then in parentheses, of the Vector Spaceman show.
Of the Vector Spaceman show. Check it out. Twitch.tv/Vector _ Spaceman.
Spaceman, that's right.
PK wants to know, since Buffy mentioned how they draw your eyes like eggs, what's your favorite way to have eggs?
I think I'm a big fan of Eggs Benedict.
Oh, yes.
Because it's very filling meal. I'm not a big breakfast food person, and eggs occupy a whole lot of breakfast foods, as it were. You rarely see eggs as a staple outside of breakfast, is what I've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going out to breakfast or something like that, at like a breakfast diner or something like that, then I like an Eggs Benedict.
How do you like your eggs cooked in that Benedict? Do you like them poached? Do you like them basted on a griddle?
I think poached is the classic way to do it. I was just going to say I like them cooked by a chef, but if we're that specific, yeah, I think poached is the way to go.
Okay, that's fair. And I will say that is one of the only ways that you should have an Eggs Benedict, as coming from a chef herself. So,
with that hollandaise sauce.
Oh God, a little bit of ham underneath and an English muffin.
The place that there's a place in our nation's capital, Ottawa, that does a very, very good. It's a breakfast diner, and it does a very good Eggs Benedict. Like farmer style huge plate that they do. I've got some friends who live in the city, so anytime I'm visiting them, we'll always go there for breakfast. And at least once every time that I go to see them, I'll order this thing. And it is like, yeah, Eggs Benedict with like ham and turkey as well, mixed into it. And all sorts of peppers and mushrooms and veg and what have you. Very, very good. Very, very good.
I'm just hungry, and I want an Eggs Benedict so bad.
Well, if you start talking about food, what do you expect, people? This is what happens.
It happens every time.
You should know better. Look at what you did. Look at what you did to our host.
Now I need food. Now I've got to go. We're going to take another break. I'm going to make an Eggs Benedict.
We'll be back in 40 minutes.
Yep. That's how long it takes the water to both boil and poach the eggs. So.
And you got to eat it. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, during the interview, of course. We'll have that all live, so. And secondly, PK wants to know, from one Canadian to another, what's your go-to Tim Hortons? Or go-to at Tim Hortons?
I don't eat at Tim Hortons. I don't really have any affection for Tim Hortons.
Uh-oh.
And in conversation with Canadians, I'll remind them that Tim Hortons is a Brazilian company at this point. They've been sold out for years. They're not any good anymore. Like, I don't know anybody who goes there for reasons other than necessity. Their coffee isn't their coffee anymore. They switched suppliers years ago. Our Canadian McDonald's now serves the coffee from the supplier that used to provide to Tim Hortons. But no, years ago, Tim Hortons was bought out by, I think it was Yum Brands International, which owns like Burger King and what have you, and are headquartered in Brazil. They're a completely, non-Canadian entity at this point. And I've never found anything great about them. I like their honey crullers, is what I used to get from them. But that's about it.
You're the first person to give me the full rundown of lore, because obviously as an American, I don't know anything about Tim Hortons at all. I just have to go off what other people tell me. So I'm glad that I've gotten
I don't think it's Yum Brands. I think it's Restaurant Brands International, RBI. But yeah, they own a whole bunch of other fast food chains.
Ellie is saying that it's basically a meme to go to Tim Hortons at this point.
Exactly.
Or to ask the question because you're simply Canadian. Buffy
We're better
wants
than
to
that,
know.
people. Come on, we got to grow as Canadians.
Where is it? Fantasy type. I gotta make sure I say this correctly for Buffy's sake. Buffy wants to know, if we were transported to a fantasy AU, what fantasy class would you be? And if you were a mage, what one element would you cast?
I see. Probably, if I were a magey type of person, probably some sort of electrical-based, energetic, magic, if you will. And this is not only to keep theming on brand with being, kind of spacey, but also because I have always been extremely, extremely prone to getting static shocks and what have you. So I think that would just be funny to just always be zapping yourself.
It's a real life superpower.
Exactly. It's the worst superpower, but it's a real life one.
Okay.
Just be
And
surrounded by this obnoxious magnetic field all the time.
would you want to be a mage, or would you have a different class in mind?
I feel like mages take study, and I don't know if I've got the disposition for that. Maybe something that's a little, more less taxing, I suppose, like a warlock or a sorcerer, something where they just give you the good stuff,
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Who wants to put in effort? I'm gonna get it for free. As long as I ask nicely.
or some sort of support class. I'd probably work very well as a support class.
Okay. You and
Maybe
Buffy.
giving, rousing, you can do it sort of attitude, speeches, that sort of thing.
A bit of a bard,
Like,
if you will.
come on, guys. Yeah, but, there used to be I've always been a big fan of 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, is where I used to play most of my tabletop games back in the day. And there was a class called the Warlord back then, which was very much like a martial support class. So they'd, swing a sword around every now and then, but most of what they did was giving your allies like extra attack moves or extra movement opportunity and stuff like that. And I always thought that really fit well for the way I like to play games, because it sort of makes you like a little, on the field strategist, like a field marshal sort of thing, like opening up opportunities and what have you. I like that.
Okay. I can definitely see it. I like the imagery of the Vector Spaceman out in the middle of the battlefield, giving orders while taking hits all the same.
Or from the back, one of the two. You can't escape this image that I could take maybe one hit and then be down for the count. Like, completely doubled over, Peter Griffin style. Completely collapsed, that sort of thing.
You got to be able to take at least a few hits there.
Well, that's what the helmet's for, people.
Oh yeah.
Safety
That extra
first.
AC, it goes a long ways. I'm going to go out of order because, well, hello, Bonnie. Bonnie asked a question that I almost just burst out laughing and crying.
Bonnie's up in here, too.
Is it true that if you die in Canada, you respawn at the last Tim Hortons you ate at?
It's a known save point. You can also use Pearson Airport, or you can use an A&W perhaps.
Okay. Specifically a Canadian, that one, though. It's got to be Canadian.
They're
A&W.
different. Yes, this is true. They're very different. It's like, like, I don't know if you ever heard, like, how 7-Eleven is a Japanese company.
Really? I didn't know that,
That's true.
actually.
A lot of people don't. And it wasn't always. But they were such a popular brand when they expanded to Japan that the Japanese division of 7-Eleven bought out the initial American division, and now they're Japanese owned.
Okay.
But similarly, Canadian A&W is very distinct from American A&W. They've got their own suite of products and advertising that like people in the States wouldn't be familiar with. So it's very much a stealth Canadian thing. Yeah.
I have a chatter that likes to come in and tell me about the Canadian A&W being far superior than American A&W.
So much better, though. So much better, though.
7-Eleven would not exist without Japan. That market literally saved the company. That puts a whole new perspective on 7-Elevens that I've walked into, because they still do a lot of like that convenience stuff that you see more in Japan than you do in any other like convenience store with the food.
They love being
and
convenient.
What you can grab. Yeah. So that brings a new perspective on it for me. I want to go to my nearest 7-Eleven now and shop there just to take a look around, see how it's been in the modern day.
I mean, there are some Japaneseisms that you still won't get in the Americas. Like, you're not going to walk into an American 7-Eleven and be able to, send a fax to your bank or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Because Japan is still so, entrenched in specific technologies. But they do their best. They're very accommodating. They're very good.
It's the nice, friendly type of tradition that a lot of us don't really get to see anymore.
And look at this in the chat. Ellie and PK confirming my A&W stance.
No, I believe it 100%. Like, I like A&W here already, but the idea that there exists a far superior version, it just makes me want to just drive over the border every so often so I could get me some of that good stuff. Someday you'll have to fax it over to me. I would love to eat A&W from Canada.
But to put a little extra spin on Bonnie's question, if you actually die in Canada with a house hippo in your pocket, then you don't lose any XP when you respawn. That's a little trick, and not a lot of people know about that.
Can we add that to the lore doc, the Canada lore?
The Canada lore, yeah.
That would be an amazing video to make. Yeah, I was going to say, what is a house hippo?
What is a house hippo? Is that what you just asked me? What is a house hippo?
I feel like I've been backed into a corner with this question.
Okay, can we go to YouTube? Can we bring up a YouTube?
Hold on, I could definitely make this happen.
We're about to educate chat.
Hippo. Hold on. I have a special little monitor set up for this, but it takes some effort
Excellent. This is what we need.
to turn on in this particular scene. Where are you? Right here. Got the big old monitor pop up, and then I go up here.
All right, look at this. Let's bring it up, you guys.
It's got. There we go. House Hippo. So I have it on stream.
So that first one up there.
Oh goodness gracious!
This is important Canada lore.
In a kitchen just like yours, all is.
But you knew it couldn't be true,
Oh,
didn't
fuck.
you?
Hold on. My bad.
You're gonna want to make it big. You're gonna want to. Oh,
As big as I possibly can. There we go.
It's
And loud.
nighttime. In a kitchen just like yours, all is quiet. Or is it? The North American house hippo is found throughout Canada and the eastern United States. House hippos are very timid creatures and are rarely seen, but they will defend their territory if provoked. They come out at night to search for food, water, and materials for their nests. The favorite foods of the house hippo are chips, raisins, and the crumbs from peanut butter on toast. They build their nests in bedroom closets, using lost mittens, dryer lint, and bits of string. The nests have to be very soft and warm. House hippos sleep about 16 hours a day.
That looked really real. But you knew it couldn't be true, didn't you? That's why it's good to think about what you're watching on TV and ask questions. Kind of like you just did. A message from Concerned Children's Advertisers.
Thank you, Concerned Children's Advertisers.
right. So this was an advertising campaign that ran at least from the 90s and was ubiquitous on Canadian television. Every Canadian kid saw this commercial.
I see. But I'm not a Canadian kid. How could you judge me?
Well, now you've been educated. How could you not? How could you not? You know, appreciate this national icon that is the house hippo.
Okay, so
I
House
hope you all
Hippo.
enjoyed that chat. I hope you all. Enjoyed
I
that.
loved it. It was very cute. So house hippos are like the XP like saving device. Like if they don't get consumed, hopefully, but if you do die with one,
No. It's impossible to kill a house hippo.
yeah, you respawn with the current XP that you have. You
They're more like
you
a
don't get any.
spiritual totem.
That all Canadians own. Everyone.
Well, everyone, has sort of like a guardian house hippo, yes.
Okay. I need to go to Canada. I need to get me a house hippo now.
Most def.
House hippos can neither be created nor destroyed.
In fact, that's why we have a real estate issue right now in the country, is we can only build as many houses as we have house hippos.
Oh, I see. Otherwise,
Because
then
they all need a place to stay.
yeah. Otherwise, then if you have too many houses, there's no longer enough places or enough.
They're not safe. You can't have a house without a house hippo. First of all, it's not up to code.
It's part of the.
Second of all, it's just disrespectful.
It's the. Does OSHA still do Canadian as far as like safety hazards and all that stuff, or is that an American?
I'm pretty sure they're still relevant. Yeah.
Okay. Yours is named Lawrence. I need myself a house hippo right now.
Quality name for a house hippo right there.
Okay. I'm loving this lore that I was.
We got more lore about Canada than we did about Vector Spaceman.
It's true. I'm losing my mind over it. You have no idea. Okay, I'm gonna get us back on track with Buffy's next question. If you were in a Smash-type fighting game, would you like to be playable or the announcer? And we have a little bit of a clause here. If you were playable, what silly little antics would you have for attacks? Like summoning the Space Fan for your special and stuff.
Space Fan is kind of a big one. I feel like I can't really do much besides like be like a Luigi type where I like charge up and do a headbutt or something like that. Mm-hmm. There's really not much going for me otherwise, combat wise. Maybe I could be like a support character or something like that. Like one of those little throwable items, and then Spaceman shows up. Maybe I just drive the van across the screen and just take out whoever's in the way.
The assist trophy. Mm-hmm. Okay, that would be really fun, actually. I could see you also being able to design that really easily. Just put yourself in a little platform and you pop out of the assist trophy.
Yep. You just hear a distant beep, and then a rocketing space van comes right across the screen.
How much damage would it do? Would it do enough to like instantly KO somebody?
Say lots.
A lot of damage? Okay.
An obnoxious amount of damage.
It doesn't KO you, but you're instantly set up to like the highest percentage, 999, and now anything can sneeze on you and destroy you. That'd be a lot of fun. All right.
I think it'd be a good one. Somebody should email Nintendo or HAL Labs or whoever's in charge of that.
Or fax it to them through a 7-Eleven. Ellie wants to know, if you had to play an instrument in an orchestra, what would you play?
Ooh, in an orchestra now. I used to play the clarinet back in school days, because we had like a music class. Everybody had to play something or another.
Mm-hmm.
I've not kept up with that, so I'm sure I wouldn't be very good at it. Very Squidward-esque. And it kind of gets lost in the sauce too. Those woodwinds.
Mm-hmm. They're a big support.
Like a Gershwin or something like that, where you get that, solo clarinet every now and then or something. Or you could. I feel like Spaceman the character would do well as either like the dude who hits the gong every now and then or something like that, like percussion, or as the conductor, and he's got a progressively taller and taller set of steps that he's got to get up to so he can get in front of everybody. Very comical, very Looney Tunes, that sort of thing.
Okay, I can see that
all
as well.
in the service of visual gags.
That's what it has to be for the Spaceman himself. Also, I see Silver in chat like, oh, another clarinetist? And I'm like, yeah, I was also a clarinetist when I was in high school.
Gang.
Yeah, clarinet gang, let's go. It's the easiest instrument to just pick up and slack off with in class.
All you got to do is move your fingers around, blow every now and then. How hard is that?
I make noise. Is it a good noise? To me.
You don't have to do that thing with your lips like the trumpet players do. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
You don't have to learn how to do things with violins, with those bows and the strings and what have you. Seems tough.
Yeah, way too hard. Just blow into a long stick, and that's all you need.
It's basically like, did they ever make you do like recorders when you were in really young grades? It's basically just the upgraded version of that.
The recorder evolved into a clarinet, and here we are now.
Mm-hmm.
Buffy does not have a question, although it is presented in a question format.
Classic Buffy.
They just wanted to say, you always do big kickflips in my heart. That means you are super cool, and I love your content and creative style. And what is your favorite type of hat, aside from helmets?
Oh, my favorite type of hat aside from helmet. I like the ones with the flaps that come down the side. Like,
oh, yes. Like the
always see,
lumberjack.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not talking about like the ones with the palms or whatever, but I'm talking about like you see like old Russian guys wearing them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the ones they're very warm. Is it Nushanka or something like that? Might be the technical term for it.
It's something like that. It has like the Shanka part in it, but I'm
Ushanka
blanking.
hat. Okay, it's just the top part. It looks like, but yeah, the ones with the flaps keeps my head nice and warm. I got a nice version of that without all of this Soviet paraphernalia that I'm seeing on the Google search. But yeah, very, very, very good stuff.
Yeah.
Very useful in the frigid northern wastes of Canada.
All up there with your extreme cold, and every day is just a walking nightmare.
Well, and the frigid cold of space, yes.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. I, Sir Commissar Spaceman.
Comrade Spaceman.
Okay, I've just got to make sure I'm not missing anything on the in-between, because we had a lot of dialogue here. Yasuhiro is presenting you not with a question, but with a challenge. Do your best movie announcer impression.
You don't hear from that guy anymore. I think he might have passed on. Or they just stopped making trailers like that. Like, everybody knows that voice.
Yeah.
In a world where one man has no legs. Talking about Dragon in the chat here. That's Yasuhiro who's asking us questions.
I see.
A frequent collaborator on the specials.
Mm-hmm.
This summer, one style of hat. And whatever it is, yeah. But it's it's always very samey. It's got a rhythm to it. We are on the question portion, Rig. Yes, if you've got questions for the Spaceman.
Oh yeah.
One Spaceman.
I think the voice is like a more tied to an era, and we've gone past that era in terms of movie advertisement, to where it stopped becoming a novelty, and it was just you saw it everywhere. And a lot of people would prefer the novelty of seeing the characters like act as part of the commercial rather than the fella narrating all the action that you see.
Don't tell us what's happening. Show us what's happening.
Yeah. I still have a soft spot in my heart for that fellow, though. Now it's all booms and bass. Yeah, exactly.
Yep, sharp like strings, and then a cutoff, and then a black, and then you hear some poignant voice line, and then you fade in to some sort of vista shot or something like that. Very fantastical.
Right into the Rock's face, or somebody else that's a famous movie actor, and they say their cheesy one line, but it doesn't have
Rock,
any.
You get John Cena, whoever.
Yeah.
It's comedy. You throw Kevin Hart in there.
And finally, Rig's question, before I start asking you my final questions here. What is your favorite fantasy weapon? That's exactly how Rig wrote it. What is your favorite fantasy weapon?
Wait, hold on. Does Rig mean a specific fantasy weapon or like a class of fantasy weapon?
That's very open-ended. We'll have to wait and see.
Like, does he want to hear like I'm a big Excalibur guy, or does he want to hear like I like swords?
Specific or class?
So that didn't narrow it down at all, Rig. That's 2 questions. Thank you for that.
Let's go with specific to start. We'll answer both of them.
Let's do both. Yeah, why not do both? We got time. Let's do both. Favorite specific fantasy weapon? Maybe the Skywalker lightsaber.
Fair enough. You big fan of the green from Luke, or the the
No,
blue.
so when I say the Skywalker lightsaber, I'm talking the multi-generational one. So the blue that goes
Gotcha.
from Anakin down to Luke and then onward. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't like I'm falling out of love with Star Wars, but in terms of like a specific fantasy weapon, like that's an iconic one. I gotta
Okay.
give it up for iconic weapons.
Mm-hmm. And then for class specifically.
For class specifically, I think there's a lot of merit to swords.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're like the foundation of a lot of martial combat with weapons. So
No doubt, no doubt.
okay. I think
So
that this is
I'm gonna get stuck thinking about this forever, and then I'm gonna interrupt a future question and say, "Wait a minute, I thought of a better one."
a different weapon.
No, I take it back.
I mean, I'm a big advocate for the spear. The spear is the layman's weapon. So anybody can pick one up and wield it. And it may not be like the most powerful, but it is definitely the most versatile, both on
It's very
defense
practical.
and attack. So some specific people back in the day during wartime were able to basically be untouchable unless they were like ambushed or caught by surprise because of just the length of the spear being enough to protect them from everything. So
And there's still, the requisite mythos behind it, which is important when you're talking about what's your favorite fantasy weapon.
yes.
Basically, like, could you see this on a marble statue? Is where you got to start. Is it
Yes.
something that's iconic enough to inspire mythos? And yeah, I'd say spears definitely fit that bill.
Alrighty. So on to my big 3 questions. These are questions that I
Big
use
3.
to basically wrap up, and I do give you some time to think about it in advance because I think that it's only fair with the importance of said questions.
I'm gonna get these
Firstly.
ones right away. Watch me.
Firstly, if you could ask the next interviewee anything, what question would you like to ask them?
So I think, do you know when you're going to be doing your next interview?
Not yet.
But we're getting near to the end of the year. So I think I'd want them to, so I'd want to ask them, because I want them to ask themselves, like, what are they most proud of having accomplished this year in their streaming journey? And what's their, big ambition for the next year? Where do they want to take their craft to the next level?
What's their big ambition for this upcoming year for their craft? All right.
Whether that be if they're a singer or if they're an animator like Spaceman or if they're just a gamer, perhaps.
Yeah. Or certified alpha male,
Certified
like
silly.
Spaceman. Secondly, if you could if you were a drink at the bar behind you, what kind of drink would you be, and what would you call yourself? And I should have specified earlier, this can be alcoholic or non-alcoholic.
Okay. So I think you take mango juice, you take black cherry juice, you take cranberry juice, you take a champagne or sparkling wine, and you mix that all together, and we call that a rosette nebula. Or
Ooh.
you can replace the champagne with a 7-Up or a Sprite or a generic no-name brand fizzy citrus sort of diddly-do, and we call that a rosette nebula proxima for the non-alcoholic version, which is probably what I would drink since I don't drink.
That's fair. But I'm glad that you had all of the core ingredients that would go into a drink like that.
That's basically what I drink.
Yeah.
Is a bunch of juices and
Also-
occasionally something fizzy.
Hella dangerous. If you after that first glass, it would be almost impossible to tell there was any alcohol in it at all.
You're probably right.
But I love it. I love the naming convention here. It's I'm not an insane mixologist, but I feel like a name has a lot to do with the way we perceive a drink. So
Most definitely. A brunch drink, says
Oh,
Rig.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a mimosa, but with a lot darker fruit juices.
oh yeah, and you twirl it around, you stare into the void of the nebula.
And the fizz. Absolutely.
Oh yes. And my final question for you is, who would you like to raid?
So tonight, you guys, I think that on any other evening, we would probably go raid members of the Nova Swarm, since they occasionally, and we'll do a Friday stream. But since I checked their schedule and doesn't look like they're streaming tonight, and a bunch of them are here in chat anyways, I think we are going to go say hi to our friend of the show and frequent collaborator, Pomato Master. We're going to go say hi to Pom. Pom is a fellow Canadian. Pom is a fellow virtual streamer, a fellow space-based virtual streamer. And tonight she's doing a little Starfield stream. So we're going to go over and we're going to say nice things. Everybody be polite. Tell her how much you appreciate her for being in the Spaceman specials. Blah. And yeah, say nice things. Give her a follow. And enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your weekend.
Oh yes, and make sure you ask the name of her house hippo, because I'm curious what she named hers.
That's a very good question, Mom. And she'll get that, yeah. What's the name of your house hippo?
Actually, you know what? That is the raid message for tonight. Oh, hold on. We'll do a Vector Spaceman raid. What
Spaceman
is
raid, even.
the name of your house hippo? And any form of emojis that you would think fit with this message. Thank you, Vector, for being on the show. I don't know what you have planned outside of streaming coming up. I'm sure that you have some big, elaborate schemes, but when do you think you'll be streaming next?
Well, thank you so much for having us. We will be streaming this coming Tuesday. I'm going to be having Regal Mikado and Dragon Durant and perhaps some more folks on the stream. We're going to be doing a little seasonal content for one of our shooter games that we get together to do. And beyond that, we'll be releasing holiday-themed skits throughout the end of the month. We've got 2 plans, so expect one around Christmas times and one around New Year's times as well.
Perfect. And this has become like a new tradition that I've liked to slap in at the very end of streams. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for our good friends in the chat this evening?
Always wear your helmet, I guess. Safety first, you guys.
Yeah. Even if you don't have a helmet, always wear it.
Yeah, go get one. Quick, it's safety first. You're not complying with space regulations. Everybody needs a helmet. Get on it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here tonight. I hope everybody in chat enjoyed our little talks, our little discussions. Remember that you can watch it again tomorrow because these stay up on Twitch. Enjoy it at your leisure, at your pleasure. And thank you so much for having us. It was such a joy to be here. I had a great time. I hope everybody else did too.
Oh, yes. And if I remember, it'll eventually be on YouTube. I'm gonna work on that. I promise.
Sweet.
I'm really bad at it. All right, now to my favorite part. We get to see and we sit here and watch Kirby for a little bit as he sends us
look
off.
At him go, though.
Yeah, he's EP. He's so tired. He's gonna be me in just 30 minutes.
I feel that.
Yeah, big mood. And at least your weekend's here, so.
It's here though. It's so here. We get to do our little news anchor sign off. People still hear us even though we're off screen. Fantastic.
Oh yeah. And then in like that last 10-minute mark, they hear us start talking about something, or not 10 minutes, the last 10 seconds, and then they'll never finish it because like the
gaffe,
raid.
Yeah, because what could it be? No, but we hit the raid, so yeah, what would it be?
Yeah. Anyways,
it's
like us
a
on
mystery.
Oh, there we go.